if you've heard this one before. If you play a spring game and there are no TV cameras and there's no one there of note to watch it, did it really happen? All right, Michigan football. We're talking that each and every week with Justin Rowe from Stadium in Maine podcast, and the Wolverines were on the field playing a bit of a spring game. That's at least what they called it. Justin, how you doing today?
Doing well. Yeah, it feels like spring here, but it was nice to at least see some pictures and a couple videos of the Wolverines on the field, but not too many people were able to see it with their own eyes.
Final score 22-10. Cade McNamara apparently played just a tremendous game. No statistics to report.
No, but you can, if there's one way to build up hype about a guy, it's to not let anybody actually watch it and then tell everybody how great he did. So how hyped up Michigan fans and the media and everybody can get, especially about a brand new quarterback. And then when you add a 5-star and J.J. McCarthy to the mix, that hype is going to skyrocket. So if that was their goal, is to hype up the incoming freshman, they did very well at it. So he was one of the starters, and he did play. From what I heard is that he played pretty well, but he definitely had a lot of freshman moments. He was able to make some really great throws, including some deep balls. But I think that he has a long way to go in terms of learning the playbook. So that was, if we want to talk about the quarterbacks right away, the difference I think was very apparent in Cade McNamara versus J.J. McCarthy in terms of knowing the playbook, leading this team, making sure guys are in the right spots, going the right ways. I think Cade made it very, very apparent that he's the guy that has some experience in this quarterback room. And the thing is, he really doesn't have much when you go back and look at it. He was technically the starter by the end of the year, but it was really only 3-4 games. And so what I've heard and what I've been told is that he has really taken the leadership aspect to the next level. He is barking out orders and being very vocal, acting like the guy that's in the room, that is the guy. And I think he felt like he needed to do that with J.J. McCarthy on his heels. I think J.J. looked a little lost at times from everything that has been said, and he, he's a 19-year-old kid, and that's what he looked like. And I don't think it's a huge surprise that J.J. doesn't quite know the playbook very well, just only being on campus for a couple months.
Yeah, the fans get excited when you sign a 5-star quarterback. And hey, I will be honest, I'm on record in a number of videos to say, hey, Cade McNamara is probably not the guy that's going to win a Big Ten championship. Probably. J.J. McCarthy potentially is. So why don't you try to do everything you can to invest in his future and do everything to prep him for the season? But there is a lot to learn. Now it's going to be interesting to see whether J.J. McCarthy takes his experience and then through individual workouts and seeing the playbook in front of his face every day is able to transmit that to performance upgrade on the field once we get to August. And then maybe there's a spurt of growth there.
Yeah, I kind of see Cade McNamara as the Jake Rudock, Wilton Spate kind of guys. They're not going to make many mistakes. They know everything there is, very smart. They know the playbook in and out. They know their guys, where they're going to be at what spots, but they're not going to go out there and make spectacular plays or throws or anything like that. So they can get the job done if you have a great team around them. That's what it looked like in 2015, 2016, even 2018 with Shea Patterson too. But now you add in J.J. McCarthy. That's a guy who is going to make those crazy throws. And I think, we've actually seen some clips from practice and the spring game where he has made those throws. So if, like you said, by August, he can get that playbook down and he becomes that leader and is that guy. And, even if he's a little bit behind Cade McNamara in terms of the playbook, Jim may say, you know what, we got to roll with this kid. Even if he's a little bit shaky right away, let him get that game experience. And then maybe by week 4 or 5, he's in a rhythm. But I think that, I just think if it's anywhere close, they're probably going to go with JJ because of exactly what you said. The interesting thing that I think is throwing Alan Bowman into the mix as well. The transfer is he ready to go? Is he, does he even have a shot at this, or is he, coming into this as a sure backup, as the backup plan, I guess, if neither of these guys works out.
We've got a Michigan mask for you available for free at voiceofcollegefootball.com. Head on over there. Even if you don't want a mask, please check out the site. We've been up and running about 2 months, and we're adding new things every week. All right, we got Justin Rowe on the line, and you can catch him on his podcast, Stadium and Main podcast, and you see on the banner when we bring it up his Twitter handle as well, so follow him right there. So if you put it all together in terms of everything you've gathered from this particular quote-unquote game, again, 22-10 blue victory, so mark that down, everyone. And then everything else that's happened over the course of the spring, anything else of note that you think is significant?
Well, I think that it sounds like, we talked about this last week. The team is playing with a lot of fire. There's a different energy to this team. You could see, I think one big thing, which this seems so trivial, but they came out in all blue uniforms and all maize uniforms. And that's something that it doesn't seem like it's a big deal because it's a spring game, whatever, but it's something that is much different than what Harbaugh has shown in the past. So maybe there still is that culture shift that's, continually happening, that he's willing to try new things, add some things for recruiting, get these guys, jazzed up for whatever they need to do to add that extra bit of energy. But from everything that I saw, especially on Saturday, was that the defense was flying around the ball. And there was just energy on both sides, some chippiness, even, guys fighting a little bit after the play. So it felt like, from everything we saw, it was a lot different than what we saw at the end of 2020, where it didn't look like these guys even wanted to, get off the bus and go on those fields, let alone adding some chippiness and fighting and energy and all the, use whatever adjective you want to there. But it just felt like, there is something new to this. And I think that is what Jim Harbaugh really has tried to do with his younger coaching staff. So that sounds like it's paying off. The other things in terms of personnel, it sounds like Daxton Hill, the 5-star free safety, now in his junior year, is by far the best player on the field at all times when he's on it. He is incredibly athletic. He makes plays that he shouldn't make from all the way across the field. I saw that a lot at the end of last year, where it felt like there was, not a single person in the secondary or the linebacking core that wanted to make a tackle. And then Daxton Hill would come across the field, like a slingshot, bat out of hell, and somehow make a play. So I think he's continuing to do that and lead that secondary. And Jamon Green is a guy that's been making some strides at the cornerback position. I think this defense will be a lot better than it has been in the past. I think they'll be able to make adjustments in terms of what personnel they have on the field, instead of where Don Brown was trying to use his defense no matter what personnel is on the field. I think Mike McDonald's going to see, take into account what he's got in terms of personnel, and then utilize a defense that fits that mold. That's where I think Michigan was having more struggles on the defensive side of the ball. The other thing that I think that we found out from spring practice is this offensive line is not going to be great, but they're not going to be the liability that some people thought they were. They're older, but they don't have much experience. It's a lot of backups and walk-ons that are playing, as well as throw in some freshmen to round it out. So I don't think they're going to be anything that you can hang you're hanging your hat on, or that's going to drive this offense. But they aren't going to be, making, letting up sacks or being the problem in the running game or anything like that. So I think that definitely helps. And then lastly, I think the other thing is this running back room is going to look a lot different. And by that, it's just with playing time. It's going to be, last year there were times where they were playing 4 running backs in one quarter. which is insane to me. But now they've got a good 3 running back rotation between Hassan Haskins, Blake Corum, and now I'm blanking, and Donovan Edwards, the freshman. And so Donovan Edwards, another, he's been bumped up to a 5-star. It sounds like he had some really good flashes. So I think that Corum and Haskins will get the good chunk, and then they'll throw in Edwards a little bit there too. But it sounded like Hassan Haskins was essentially untackleable at times, really, bullying this defense. So that's it. That's exciting because I think that this running back room could be the most talented position group in all of for the whole team.
Talking Michigan football with Justin Rowe. Please like the video, share the videos on social media, because if you enjoy them, others will as well. So we ask that you share the videos on social media, and please subscribe right here. All right. You mentioned, and we really focused on this last week, so playing music at the practices, just to create some fun, create some juice. We see that with the coaching changes, that we'll see how that plays out, but more youth on the coaching staff. We see this director of player personnel being brought in from Fresno State, Courtney Morgan. So yeah, there's something to that possibly. Wanted to ask you about the dead period, which ends for everyone. It's not official yet, but the optimism is that across the nation, the dead period by the NCAA is going to be lifted on June 1st, but there's a pandemic spike in Michigan. I know it's impossible for you to project what's going to happen and what politicians are going to decide, but are you hearing any rumblings, negative or positive?
Well, I was just texting with Dr. Fauci. And
well, that's what I'm looking for. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of insight most people want on your college football show, right? No, it is really hard to tell. I haven't heard anything in terms of the dead period not being taken off the table now. The governor here in Michigan, she urged that high school sports be postponed for 2 weeks starting last week because of the spike in cases. The MHSAA did not follow that, actually. So it wasn't an order. It was just an urge. But it sounded like the high school sports administration here did not follow it, and they kept playing. I have to imagine that college athletics are going to do that too. If the regions have anything to do with it, they're going to urge these politicians to say, hey, this dead period has gone on long enough. It's time to open this up. And I think, part of that definitely is that it sounds like the whole athletic department or anybody who wanted to was able to get vaccinated, which was great. So I think that helps for sure. But I think that, from what I've heard, Michigan has been lining up these guys to come take a look. And that's Michigan's biggest advantage, in my opinion, is its facilities. The facilities at Michigan are second to none. Obviously, there are a lot of great programs out there with great facilities, but at Michigan here, they're pretty damn good. So from what I've heard, is that as soon as that dead period does end, Michigan's going to have as many people on campus as possible. There are a lot of guys that they've been talking to for a long time that they are going to schedule within those first couple weeks after it's done. So I don't see it being, any different in Michigan than it would in the rest of the country, even though with the cases spiked. Now, does that mean that these prospects, that these recruits will come because of the cases spiking? I don't know. Maybe that's going to be on an individual basis. There may be some guys that say, well, let me wait a few weeks until this dies down here. I don't want to get COVID or anything like that. But yeah, I don't see it being an issue with Michigan, even with the cases spiking.
All right. Well, the dead period begins now that spring football's officially in the books. Well, I guess it's in the books at Michigan. That's what we heard over the weekend. But that the dead period starts for college football media, but not here at the Voice of College Football. So now the onus is on me, Justin, to make this something over the next few months and hit you up with some good questions. So I will be sending those your way as we delve more into program-based and historic and rankings. And I got all sorts of good stuff for you.
Perfect. I can't wait. I hopefully will have some good answers there. We were talking about it last week. I've got some good experiences at Michigan games, specifically in sports in general. So hopefully I have a few good stories to tell.
Awesome stuff from Justin Rowe. Please join him on Stadium in Maine podcast covering the Maize and Blue. Justin, we always appreciate it. Have a great week.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mark.